Analog horror, quite a genre. Definitely one of the weirder ones. Most of y'all are aware analog horror is very tedious, with themes so repetitive it makes Minecraft YouTubers seem original. Now, let me quickly make it clear, I do not personally hate this genre. This video is 100% my opinion in terms of what I say about these overused cliches, and you are always free to disagree with anything I say in the comments. Though keep it civil, or I might get mental. While we're on the topic, thanks to LM Card Game for the video idea. I hope you pronounced her name right. It means a lot, as this is a bit more diverse of a subject than some of my other videos. Also, I'm genuinely sorry about the last one, which I forgot to mention was all my opinion. I mean, seriously, it was more controversial than the concept of racial equality. So controversial, in fact, I had to write a whole ass post on it to explain everything and apologize. That's kinda crazy for something I created. Anyways, the point is, analog horror is generally worse than I thought. After a little while, I started to realize there are some subjects in this genre that seem to push the boundaries of YouTube without totally overdoing it. Like gore, death, murder, shit like that. But nothing too over the top, at least for most of them. I'm basically talking about the line between safe and unsafe content on YouTube, specifically, and not exactly other platforms where gory or unsafe content is allowed for some reason. So, analog horror tends to reuse certain aspects of other content in a genre, as mentioned previously. Again, lots of gore and death. But what exactly are the top 5 most overused concepts in analog horror? Number 5. Distorted or stretched faces. This may have looked really cool and twisted in the first few analog horrors that did this, but it became extremely cliche over time. Before it became more overused in TikTok sounds, it was actually a simple yet effective way to add tension to something. Now it stands as basic and lazy to the breed of analog horror as a whole. Number 4. The omniscient entity. There's a lot here. If there even was an omniscient entity, why would it go after you specifically? If it's some kind of demon, not to mention the godlike powers they would have, why don't they cause actual damage to something beloved by millions or even take over the entire planet? It makes no sense unless they would rather chase down a trio of teenagers covered in oil than burn the Eiffel Tower in the blink of an eye. But you do you, I guess. Number 3. Twisted children's programs. Have you ever seen Courage the Cowardly Dog or that one episode of Invader Zim? Well, these were most likely not completely intended to be unsuitable for children, but it's a whole nother world in analog horror. Many supposedly children's shows in this genre start out with sunshines and rainbows, but gradually drop into madness and chaos as people get brutally killed and all that juicy shit. This idea of a cursed, demonic kids show is pretty creative if I do say so myself, but just like every other trope on this list so far, it's terribly oversaturated in modern analog horror. Number 2. Unseen or unexplainable threats. While keeping threats off screen can add to the tension, many analog horror videos rely solely on implication, lacking a build-up or at least something decent in between. Doing this may have worked at the dawn of horror on YouTube or anywhere really, but as for everything else, this trope is just stale and uninspired. Honorable mention, the first-person exploration sequence. Everybody has heard of the Backrooms at some point, which was the absolute peak of analog horror at the time of its release in 2019. Somewhat due to the new, interesting first-person style that gave the Backrooms sort of a gimmick to the video. Ever since, there have been tons of YouTubers mimicking this fashion as the Backrooms grew indescribably more viral. It blew up crazy hard, in fact, gaining over 60 million views as of November 2024. And with this new style to the analog horror genre came thousands of new fan-made Backroom type videos. Hell, when it was the pinnacle of YouTube, I even made one myself. I know, crazy. But of course, first-person analog horror should be deemed dead to the public eye, at least from what I've seen. At least the Backrooms had sort of a legacy behind it. And now, the moment you've all been waiting for. Number 1. Emergency alert systems. Well, at the top spot, analog horror alarms are seriously, undoubtedly cliche by now. If you saw the 100 Days as a Blank Minecraft videos as a kid, you ain't seen nothing yet. Usually this format starts with a cursed VHS effect from the 80s or 90s, followed by the American EAS quickly after. If you somehow don't know what that sounds like, this is it. These analog horror alert systems usually try to mimic one from the late 20th century, quality and style-wise, starring these little guys from signs everywhere. A lot of the time there will be a local intruder or something cheesy like that shown on the video, and for some reason, they are explicitly twisted yet totally simple overall. In short, you know the premise by now, and if you ask me, EAS alarms in analog horror films are booty cheeks. Though as every other trope in this video, they were mostly original and creative around their debut. Over time they became more and more popular, yet more and more stale. so please try to avoid these if making analog horror when you can. Well, anyways, that's about it for today. As usual, I hope you enjoyed me ranting about some shit no one even gives a fuck about. If you somehow did enjoy it for whatever reason, consider subscribing to the channel as it means a ton to me. Well, with that said, thanks for watching and peace out. Well, at the top spot, analog horror alarms are seriously, undoubtedly... Number 3, Twisted Tilden Poke. What's a Tilden Poke? I would like to know what a Twilden Poke is. Can somebody explain to me what a Twilden Poke is?